Hi.
Hi, Waksy.
Obviously, you know I'm Waksy. Hi, Jules.
How are you?
I'm good.
Are you doing well today?
Yeah.
Are you ready for today's conversation?
As ready as can be.
Okay, so the first question. Who did you lose, when, and how?
I lost my dad in September. He had a heart attack.
Oh no, I'm really sorry. My condolences. I've lost a couple of people, but I lost my best friend Narciso last year in February, and I guess I also lost him to a heart attack, but he was sick for a while.
I'm really sorry.
Moving on simply.
Okay. How have things been with your family and friends since?
It was a big wake-up call for my friends, especially for me, based on like the kind of friends I've chosen to keep and like our relationship. For family, me and his sister have become really close in this past year. And yeah, we're taking it a day at a time.
Okay. For me, with my family, I think definitely like we've gotten closer because this is one. We've always been close, but this is the one thing that has just been like solidified our relationship, really, if that makes sense.
I get that.
For my friends, there's definitely like, I don't know if you feel the same way, but I changed. It's like this huge thing happened and I'm not the same person. So it's like the dynamic is different. So I've in the process lost some friends and then gained
Others.
Yeah, so it's been an interesting transition.
Yeah. Nice. I can totally relate to that. Describe your relationship with your loved one.
Ooh, so my dad was one of my closest friends. He was my dad, but he was a friend. And so in that sense, I feel like I lost many people in one, if that makes sense. He was those people who you never had to guess where your place was. So our relationship was very, you can be yourself and I can be myself.
For sure.
Yeah. So just to lose that was, I don't know how to explain, but to lose that kind of relationship was a huge like dent.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah.
I guess describing it is also confusing in terms of like the words to actually use. So even like for my relationship with Narciso, we were just so in sync when we were together, like just doing stuff. We did a lot of adventures together and like shared a lot of creative stories. Like we'd see a light, a bulb, and think of like 5 different ways of using that bulb creatively. So that was very exciting. He challenged my creativity and I'd challenge his. And he was like the brother I didn't have. Another brother I didn't have. Yeah. So yeah, I miss him, but I cherish the memories we have.
Okay.
Waksy, don't cry. Don't. But you can cry, it's a safe space.
We kind of have answered this. Can you tell me about your loved one?
So maybe you can go over a memory you haven't mentioned.
You first.
Me? Oh yeah, okay. He was very smart. He was like a tour guide. He knew all the best places to explore in Kenya. And yeah, he challenged your what do I call it? he challenged you in terms of how you would, carry out an adventure or like what you'd do in terms of creativity? Like he'd give you space to do your part, and then if you don't hit any of his ideas, then he'd share his ideas with you.
Okay. In many ways, my dad was the light of my life. And when I think about him, I just think of really living life, And so he was the type of person who everyone liked, no question, everyone liked. He was the funniest person in the room. When he needed to be a friend, he was a friend. When he needed to be a dad, he was a dad. I think he understood people very well. And I think he always saw the humor in everything. It's such a gift to have that kind of person in your life, because you learn not to take life too seriously. And there are many times when I think about, oh my God, if he knew this is how he went, he would be laughing. Yeah. So he was just the kind of person who held no grudges. Everything was on his sleeve, so you knew what he was feeling. He was very open with how he felt about people, how much he loved people. He would go out of his way to help whenever he could, to the point where like some of his students were DMing me to tell me like, your dad did this for me in school. And so, they're just the light of my life, truly.
Nice. You mentioned he had students. What did he teach?
He taught literature in KU, and then he taught, is it called Senex in USIU?
Oh, okay.
And the other one, the first year experience, something. Yeah.
That's really cool. I'm noticing your dad and my friend had a few things in common.
Oh, that's interesting.
Is there anything you wish you would have said to them before they died?
Wow. It's interesting because I don't think there is, because there's something about being in a relationship with someone who's super open that makes you open as well. So I used to tell him a lot that I loved him, and I feel like we really, more action than words, like we truly knew what we felt for each other and what we meant to each other. So I've gotten this question a lot, and I've always struggled with it, because I feel like we really lived life, and there's an element of guilt sometimes that comes with it, because I feel like, apart from my mom, because I'm the oldest, I spent the most time with my dad.
Yeah.
And so it's more like a guilt of, I wish they had more time with him. Yeah, if that makes any sense. Yeah.
It's a very interesting question as well, because my friend was sick for a while. So we got a big scare in 2019 when he went into ICU. So when he got out of ICU, I made a mental note to keep reminding him that I love him. Wow. So it's something that I feel most people don't tell their friends. I love you, but you don't really say it. Yeah. So, and there's some people who really struggle saying I love you. So it's something that I took a mental note into telling my friends I love them a lot more. And with him also, it was just showing up, even if he didn't really ask me to show up. Oh. So that's something at least I know I had said to him before he died. And at least I know, I comforted myself knowing that at least I had told him I love him. It's not something that I wish he knew I loved him. Yeah.
So in a way you had the gift of time.
Yeah.
Between.
There was some time to do that.
Yeah. Oh, wow. What have you learned about yourself since your loved one passed away? Ooh,
it gets deeper. What card are we on now?
No idea. Numbers are no longer available.
What was the question again?
What have you learned about yourself?
For starters, I've learned that I have beautiful friends. I have beautiful friends, and he was a genuine friend to me. I am a genuine friend to my friends.
Yeah.
So I just need to work on probably showing up more, but also learning that it's a two-way street. Yeah, so it's something that has made me also just realize to create clear boundaries with my friends. Yeah,
that's important.
Yeah.
I've learned that I am stronger than I thought. So how it went down. So my loss was a bit different because my dad died suddenly, and he died at home, and we were basically administering first aid, and he died. In my wildest dreams, like I'm a panicky person. But when all of this was going down, I remember just being like, calm. Yeah, I need to do this, because my mom was the one who was actually administering the first aid, but I needed to hold on to my dad. Never would I have imagined I would be in that position. But it's taught me, like, I'm stronger than I ever thought I could ever be. And that has given me a lot of courage to, same as you, like to draw boundaries, to say no, to express my feelings, especially like loving your friends, loving your family, to do things I never thought I could, you know, just to take that step of taking a risk.
Definitely.
Yeah, so it's just taught me that stronger than I thought I ever was.
Yeah, that's true. I get that. I can relate to that for sure. What have you learned about your loved one since they passed away?
Oh, wow. That he had a bigger influence than I thought. Just thinking about my dad, he was very down to earth. He was humble. He lived his life, I don't want to say small, but lived his life like he just was in his bubble. He never was for like recognition, or he just lived his life as him.
Simple.
Yeah. And just the number of people that were affected by his death, I was blown away.
Yeah.
And because he was not the type of person to brag. So I would hear accounts of like things he did for people, and I'm like, what? What are you talking about? But then at the same time, I would see like it would be typical of him. So I learned that his kindness and his consideration it reached far. Like it reached farther than I ever imagined. Yeah.
Remember earlier when I said that there's a lot about your dad that's reminding me about my friend. So I also realized that he has a lot of influence. So in terms of like during the burial, we had a mass in Nairobi, then we had to travel to Lugari for the burial. And when we were at the church in Nairobi, during the eulogy, I learned that he participated in a lot of artworks in the church. So like they have a huge mural at this church, and he had painted that with his sister. And then when we traveled to Lugari, found out that he had also painted a few murals there. So I knew he was, creative and very artistic and very engaged in community service in any way. But also I kind of didn't have a visual picture of what that looked like. So to just see that, you know how charity begins at home, to see that he started at home, and even like in their shags he did the same thing. It was beautiful to see that like he was not just a loving guy to me as his friend, but also to people he didn't know. And yeah, that was beautiful to learn. Also, he kind of went through a lot and put up with a lot. I realized that there's a lot of times I would go and just vent and whine about my relationships or whatever drama I had going on, and he would be in pain or he'd be going through something, and I really couldn't tell. Until probably I was done venting, and he'd be like, "Hey, I'm really sorry about this," and I was like, "Okay, tell me about you." And then that's when now he'd be like, "Yeah, you know, actually, I'm not feeling well. This is what's going on. I've been struggling with this." And then I'd be like, "So why wouldn't you just cut me off with all my drama and tell me you can't deal with it now?" So he was always smiling even when he was in so much pain, and just like it just showed me how much of a beautiful person he was inside and out. We're almost there, Waksy. Almost there.
What are some of the things you did that helped you get through your loved one's passing?
A lot of DIY projects. From making like pallet furniture to hiking, to I would say the pallet furniture really kept me, especially because I know I love DIYs. I had an idea of what I want to build with pallets, and it seemed like something very impossible, expensive, time-consuming, exhausting. But once I started and I was able to build all the things like on the list, tick them out, and be satisfied with how they look, then that was something that really helped me just cope. And I know for a fact if my sister was here, that's something we'd definitely do together. So there's that, and just being around nature and meditating a lot more. Those are things that we did together, and while I was doing them, I didn't really realize that it's stuff we did together. I was kind of just doing it as an escape. But when I thought about it later on, I was like, actually, these are things my sister would definitely be a part of had he still been here. What about you?
Therapy.
Okay.
I threw myself into creative projects. So, because I'm a multidisciplinary artist, I don't know if you know this, but I picked up my pencil, started doing portraits. I actually just finished recording an album.
Nice.
I just moved. It was activity. I walked a lot. I did Karura a lot the first 2 months. Like with the first 2 months I was walking, I just was like, let's go. Karura a lot. At some point I even got weights. I was lifting weights.
Nice.
I was just doing things to keep my mind and body busy. So I did a lot of drawing. I wrote a lot of music. What else did I do? I really spent a lot of time with my friends and family, because I realized for me, dealing means talking about it. So I have to kind of talk through stuff to figure it out, if that makes sense. Not that you can really figure out grief, but like it gave me a sense of, okay, this is where I'm at today, because also grief is day to day. So I did a lot of like creative stuff, and also just working out, and because I noticed the difference between when I work out in the morning on a day on like when I work out versus when I don't. Like my mood is so different. Yeah.
And are these things that you used to do before, or?
I did do them before, so it was kind of a habit, but I did them more consistently after the
Interesting. It's funny how your body has a lot to do with healing.
Moving.
Interesting. Oh, it goes back there.
Oh, sorry.
Has your perspective on death changed?
Definitely. Like, I think for everyone, death is kind of an abstract concept. Like, you kind of know it's going to happen, but then you don't really think about it. I think now I'm more aware that it could happen to anyone at any time.
True.
So I'm kind of it's always in my mind. I don't think we talk about it enough. I think it's something that we should talk about because it's going to happen.
It's true.
And it's just those things of realizing, oh my God, I'm either going to survive you or you're going to survive me. And I'm more aware of, okay, this is a reality and it's going to happen to all of us. So it's always in my mind, as opposed to before when you're just like, you know how you see your friends dealing with it or your family and you're like, I don't know how they survived this big loss. And then it happens to you and it's like, oh wow, it's been a year. Like, it's been a year and a half.
It's true.
Yeah.
Definitely, I'd agree with you. My perspective on death has changed massively, especially because, I feel like death is something we grew up knowing. We are gonna deal with it eventually, but, until it's close to home, you wouldn't really know actionable ways of how to do with it, emotional ways of dealing with it and all that. So, for him, I was saying, I was talking to Pauline some time back and I was telling her how, sometimes when you grow up, my shosho will die, my grandpa will die, and kind of imagine, one day will come when they'll not be there, even as far as our folks. But when your friend dies, I don't think you kind of imagine what that would look like.
Yeah.
And so I had to plan the funeral or help plan the funeral. And that's something I wasn't prepared for. It's not something I had, thought about doing, So that really opened up a whole new perspective of, how do you deal with this? So many people are coming to you hoping you'd know what to tell them or how to address this. And I'm just there like, is this really happening? Yeah. Is this really happening every day? Until we buried him and I was like, I don't want to see people for like a month because we were seeing each other so often with the planning and everything. Yeah. So it was and I'm a bit grateful that this also, his burial happened before COVID. So the restrictions were not as hectic. It wasn't like as rushed because my grandma died this year and it was so rushed we had to do it in 4 days. We had to bury her. So when I look at Masisa, I feel like we gave him the send-off he deserved. Yeah. We all came together, we just tell stories about him for days and then, everyone goes home and the next day you come and you're all just sharing your memories of this person so it doesn't feel so heavy on just one person. You're not the only one who's feeling so bad that you didn't say this and you didn't do that.
Yeah.
But with my grandma, everyone was just like, we need to put money together. We need to, organize. You have to call this place. Who can go and do this? So we're all just splitting like errands to just make sure we get it done by a certain day. So by the time even the burial is happening, you haven't really mourned. You haven't. So my perspective on death has changed because, especially now living during a pandemic as well, you just have to be grateful for life. Because death is something you can change your lifestyle, but you can't change death.
Exactly. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
When your time comes, your time comes.
Yeah, that's it. So it's something that I'm not as afraid about. I'm not afraid about dealing with death as I was before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, was it me or you?
Yeah, it's you.
Who are the people that helped you the most when you were grieving?
Oh, it's me to answer first. I have close friends. I have my brother was one of them. My girlfriend was one of them. And funny thing, we had just met, but here she was taking up a lot of, load that wasn't, meant for her.
Yeah.
Then I have like a few friends, but I would say mostly it was like 3 people. There was my brother, my friend, and my girlfriend. They're the ones who were really took on a lot of the load from it. Then there's more external people who would check in and kind of distract you. Come, let's go do this. Then also just engaging with live music and outdoor nature. That helped a lot. What about you?
For me, my family, man. So especially the maternal side of my family, we've always been close, but when ish hit the fan, I've always been happy that I come from kind of a large family, but when it happened, when my dad passed, I was so grateful that they were there, and he passed on during the pandemic, so they would come for like a specific period of time, and then because of curfew they would leave. But I'm happy it was like that, because then we had kind of the nights with my immediate family. So the first, let's say, month, it was my family and some of my friends. One particular friend who unfortunately passed away in June was just there. I remember one day I was so irritated because I was like, can't she just go? And my dad died the day before her birthday, and I remember she was like, I'm going to be there this afternoon, because my dad died in the morning, and she came in the afternoon because she was prepping for her birthday the next day, and she was just there. And when I think about it now in hindsight, I'm so grateful she was, because I feel like it's good to have someone outside of your family, because it's a different kind of support. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And so my family, my extended family, my friends, especially Lisa, and then I have friends who also have lost a parent. So those conversations were very interesting. The things I said to them, I would never think of saying had I not experienced what I experienced. And I remember having this conversation with a friend of mine, of like, I'm so sorry, I didn't think to say this. And I want to say this to you today, because I understand now. I understand. And so those people just really helped. Of course, therapy. I'm gonna say therapy for like every question.
Therapy helps.
But yeah, shout out to the Waksy kids.
Yeah. You've even reminded me that there's a lot more people who actually helped me than I realized. Because there's a lot of Masiz's friends who'd also just come in and check on the family and stuff. So yeah, shout out to all those guys. Are you ready? We have like 2 cards left.
Gosh. Okay.
Ooh, I think we've touched on this, but maybe there's others. What coping mechanisms did you develop during grieving?
I drank a lot.
Ooh, coping.
Just to cope.
Drank water?
I drank a lot of alcohol.
Oh, okay.
And I'll explain. Because when my dad passed, so it was like a 2-week period between when he passed and when we buried him, because there were people coming in from abroad and things like that. And I remember essentially my mom and my sister checked out. It was like, we can't. So I was kind of in a position where I had to help like my dad's side of my family plan things. And to cope that initial period, I just drank. And I remember like 2 weeks, like after we buried him, just thinking I have to stop doing this now, because I was using it to just get by. Like I just needed to get by every day.
Yeah.
And then after that, then it became, okay, what can I do that's healthy, that will help me cope? So then the walking came in. It was kind of there even like before we buried my dad, but it came in properly now after we buried my dad, and now you no longer have as many visitors and you have more time to just, so the walking came in, and I realized with walking I think a lot, like I'm able to just process. Then the drawing came in, and then this is another story, but my friend tricked me into therapy, so I took her. It was weird because she was like, just take me for this session. She's never ever asked me. And she lost her mom in 2016 or maybe 2017. So she's been going on and off since she lost her mom. And so I went in, and towards the end, it was like the therapist was like, oh, I also hear you've lost your dad. And so I had a session just before Christmas.
Somewhat,
which helped me a lot. And I knew I was going to come back to therapy. So just the initial coping of, I need to drink and I need to block everything and I need to be numb, which I don't recommend, but it's just the thing I did. And then switching into like more wholesome things to do, like walking, being creative. I read a lot also. When I think about it, read a lot of books, a lot more than I usually do.
Okay, then we have the one thing in common. I also just drank a lot. Or drinking your sorrows away, it doesn't really help. If anything, it brought about a lot of conflict for me in terms of like getting into a lot of unnecessary fights with now like the people close to me. And you know, thank God I would say they respect me enough to call me out and be like, yo, no, we know you're going through something right now, but you can't do this. You can't talk to me like that. You can't treat me like that. It's not okay. It's fine. We'll tolerate your attitude and whatever, but no, you need to also learn how to handle whatever you're going through better. So then, you know, hearing it from 3 different people from different, you know, parts of Nairobi is something that, you know, was a wake-up call for me to also just realize, okay, fine. So then for me, it became something that, let me try a different approach. I have a dog. She's very needy. So for like the most part of last year, I realized that something I love doing is going for walks and runs. I'd get her in the car, go to Arboretum and spend like 2 hours there. Obviously, we're not running for 2 hours, but like just run and then just chill for a bit. So I noticed I hadn't done that for a while, so I started doing those small things, like taking the dog out for a walk. And, you know, when we come back, I'm probably not feeling my best, but just seeing the dog so excited, it also just calmed me down. Getting into DIY projects, the palette projects, just keeping myself busy in a way that doesn't kind of make me think of, fuck, when do the wines and spirits open? When can I, you know, where can I get this? And nowadays there's apps, so you can just order and it comes to your doorstep. So that helps also just clear my mind into thinking drinking is the only way you can kind of make yourself feel better. So there's that, And also, I didn't start therapy. I started therapy this year.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I think also I started getting a bit anxious as it got to the 1-year anniversary. So then I literally started therapy a week before his 1-year anniversary memorial. And I was telling the therapist, like my friend died and, it's almost a year. And she told me, okay, just kind of journal down how you feel about it. And I used to journal a lot and I stopped. So the journaling, and even last year as I was trying to do alternatives from drinking, I started journaling again, coloring. I have a coloring book. So small things, just something that can distract your mind, even if it's for like 5 minutes, it actually just helped a lot.
That's interesting. How, can I ask, how was the 1-year anniversary for you?
I think starting the therapy, even though it was just a week before the 1-year anniversary, was very helpful because I thought it was much easier. I would say easy, this is not the right word, but it was not as overwhelming as I thought it would be. So that was relieving for me because I didn't feel as drained. I didn't feel so bad. Like my go-to was not drinking. So that was, small wins, small progress, and still taking it a day at a time.
Of course. Is it me?
Yes.
Whew. What has this experience taught you?
This experience has taught me that there's no manual to grieving. There's literally no manual
Say
to
it
grieving.
to the people at the back. Yes.
There's no manual for grieving. But it's one of those things that you kind of take it a day at a time. Things like drinking, which I thought would be a solution, is something that will just make you feel good in the moment. And then, tomorrow's another day and you'll still miss your friend. Or you'll still miss your loved one. And, what do you do then? You can't drink every day, all day. There's work, there's other responsibilities. So I think picking healthier lifestyles is definitely a way that has helped me cope better. And I think just taking it a day at a time. Even 5 years down the line, I'll still miss my friend. It'll still be tough on some days or some part of the year. Like even today morning, my phone was reminding me 4 years ago, we were at his house taking my dog for a walk. So, Google never forgets.
Of course.
I don't think we will either. So it's one of those things that we should just take it easy.
I think I would say the same, that grief is not linear. So it's like there's no, it's not, okay, anger, denial. You know how like the 5 stages? Nah. Like you could literally be in acceptance the first day and then go back to like denial, anger. It's very, it's not a linear thing, and it depends on the individual. It's like it's many factors that come into play, in spite of the fact that you've probably lost the same person.
True.
It's taught me the value of good relationships, like what a good relationship means. I always tell people that I'm happy I was single when it happened, because I think what I would have done is I would have distracted myself with my partner. But really what helped me was I was alone and I was dealing with it. I remember just having this very clear thought of, I have to deal with this as it comes. This is beyond what I know, and I have to. I used to say, I don't want to be 40 in a club having a breakdown because I haven't dealt with.
It's not funny. It's not funny, but I get what you're saying.
So I was very open to, from the very beginning, I was very open to what it was going to look like. And I don't think I would have done that had I been involved with someone. And I say that because the year before about a year before I lost my dad, I decided, I was like, I'm not going to be in a relationship.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad I did that, because I was very aware of myself at the point where I lost my dad. And I was very aware that I actually needed to take it as it came. And so it taught me truly that grieving is not linear, but also that I can rely on myself.
Yeah.
That's like the biggest lesson. I can rely on myself. And yeah, I think there's so much growth that comes with grieving, especially if you're open to, okay, this for real has happened.
True.
And it's a mountain and I have to deal with this every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, because in fact, you just reminded me that, you know, one of my closest friends who had helped me get through my grief lost her mom like a month before my sister died. So she was someone I definitely didn't want to talk to, not because I didn't want to talk to her, because I just felt like you're also dealing with a lot. So this process of us both grieving and kind of just dealing with it in our own ways is something that taught me I should definitely be more sensitive around people, because you know everyone's really going through a lot. So in that sense, just take it easy. You don't have to have it all figured out, and you know being aware of how you feel goes a long way in just helping you cope with what's going on. So yeah, thank you so much, Waksy.
This was amazing. This was amazing.